Though I did hear that they did add dedicated farming. Yeah, they did add dedicated or targeted farming. I see. Here's the thing, right? I didn't like Borderlands 3 because, and like you just said, you said I think Borderlands 3 did well with most things except farming and jokes. To me, that is Borderlands. Is the jokes and the ability to farm for loot, because it can't be a looter shooter if I can't get loot. And you said it had some funny bits here and there, but not as many as Borderlands 2. Definitely. I had my mic muted when Claptrap got his eye ripped out, but I snickered a little just because Claptrap is such an idiot character. I love him. And yeah, true, they did add dedicated farming to Borderlands 3, but the reason that you don't want to add, it's the same thing with something like Destiny. You don't want to add dedicated or target loot farming to these games because, say, I can't think of the name of, I can't open menu right here. I can't think of that. Say like this weapon right here. You could only get it from this one boss. And Borderlands is known for you just save quitting to resummon the boss. So for me to get the perfect roll of this weapon, where I could get like the perfect attachments and everything on it, I would just sit there for like 3 days because it ideally, it doesn't really take that long. It might take a week because drops are like fairly forgiven for the most part in the Borderlands series. But you would sit there and constantly save quit, killing the same boss until you got the perfect attachments on this weapon, which is the enjoyment of it. But the problem with that is when you have when you have a game that allows you to target loot like that, you're spending less time in the game because if I'm sitting there for a week grinding out, each thing that I want, which say, let's actually look and see how many slots there are. So there's 4 weapons, and then, uh, you have your relic, your shield, your, what's your mod, and your grenade. So you have 8 slots. So you spend 8 weeks. The story never takes you long. So you spend 8 weeks farming exactly what you want. You get the perfect stuff, and then a lot of people quit after that. For me personally, I don't understand the point of farming for the perfect stuff and then not using it on stuff in the game, but it's been shown that whenever players can get the stuff that they want fast, they quit playing once they get it. So the idea with Borderlands 3 is when they made it and they released it, they wanted you to spend as much time in it as possible, so everything was a world drop. So you would just have to hope you get lucky from, this boss, that boss, and whatnot. So you would just have to constantly play to get these things. It didn't make it better. I know some people seem to think that there's a world where it was better that way, but it's just not. You spend more time in the game because I can't target this specific weapon. I'm farming these enemies for 40 different weapons, and this thing already has, you know, hundreds of rolls depending on what stock I get, what grip, what magazine, what barrel, what sight, stuff like that. So I'm already grinding 40 different weapons, so I have a 1 in 40 chance to get the weapon that I want to drop, assuming that it's not weighted towards specific weapons. So say each of the 40 weapons all have the same value to drop. And then on top of that, you have on top of that, you have the parts that you're trying to search for. So you have 1 in 40, and then, say there's like 100 combinations. Just combinations. So you have a 1 in 100 chance of that. So, I'm not really great at math with probability, but that's like, what, 1 in 4,000 chance of getting the perfect roll? Whereas if it was one weapon that had a 5% drop, every time you killed the boss, you would have a 5% chance of it dropping, and then you would have a 1 in 100 chance of it being the perfect thing that you wanted. which I believe that comes out to be the odds are better. I could be mistaken. I could not be doing math right, but off the top of my head, it's better that way. And everyone on Twitter is talking about how Borderlands 4 needs to have dedicated farming, targeted loot farming. And with that in mind, I already know it's not going to have it at launch. The pre-sequel didn't have it. It was so bad in the pre-sequel that, like, certain bosses you just couldn't battle again, which was, like, the dumbest thing I'd ever heard of in my life. What did you say? Oh, the story. More the hidden story than the main story. All the first Vault Hunters, the Iridians, the Sisterhood, Seventh Siren. Which I think is not necessarily... I mean, I hated that the first Vault Hunter was the father of the shithead kids in the game. And, you know, I expected the first Vault Hunter to be a badass, and, you know, it didn't really scream badass, but I know he's old. I think something better than doing that would be to, like, give him his own game, you know? Make it the first Vault Hunters. It was hidden stuff. Find, like, logs and collectibles. Yeah. Which I think is fine. I played Destiny 2, which is notorious for having some of its best lore inside of, you know, artifacts and collectibles and stuff. And it's just... I don't know, man. The game's gonna come out. It's not gonna have great loot, which is like the big thing for me. I played Destiny, which it doesn't have a good story. It has good loot. So I can live with the story being not great, you know? I want to play a looter shooter for the loot. As far as story goes, there's a chance, but for me personally, I don't know what kind of story they're gonna do. So Rick, you'll have to tell me because you know, good old Randy has me blocked on Twitter. I saw some people saying that it was a multiverse story, and I know Randy's been talking about it because I've seen people retweeting Randy stuff, and the only reason I know it's Randy is because it says I'm blocked. But they've been retweeting stuff and then talking about Borderlands, and I don't know the context because I can't see Randy's tweets. I need to make a new Twitter so I can look at his tweets. But people are saying stuff like a multiverse, a council of Jacks, kind of like Kong or Kang, however you want to say it, Khan or Kang, which is, I think, a horrible idea. If you're gonna do the multiverse, I don't think you should make Jack the main villain again. I think that's a cop-out. And then in the trailer, we had the quick flash of the face. Jack is permanent. If it's a multiverse, no, he's not. That's all I'm saying. Because, like, we know that Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man died. He's coming back to the movie, so there's another universe out there in the multiverse where he is Doctor Doom. There's also the fact that we know that Iron Man is someone else in the universe that Doctor Strange went to. Same thing with there's no Captain America in that world, but a Captain Carter. I hope it's not multiverse. I haven't seen the speculation videos. I haven't either. I've been just trying to read the tweets, but I can't read half of them because Randy has me blocked for me to actually understand the context. End of the trailer, there's like a flash on the screen, and people were saying that that was Jack because a quick glance at it, it like throws up a vault symbol over the person's face, and people were saying it's Jack. I've heard people say that Randy said, you know, that Jack was permadead. They weren't going to use him again. But I don't know if they're using old tweets or current tweets from Randy, because I can't fucking see what he says. And the reason people are saying that is because they think that Lilith teleported Elpis through space and time. I agree with that. I said the same thing. But because people are saying because the vault symbol flashed in the same orientation that Jack's face is burned, they assume that it's Jack. So people are thinking that because they like Lilith teleported Elpis and ripped through a wall, and some people are saying that it's quite possible because Borderlands has already established a multiverse with there being the universe that the games take place in, and then the movie universe, which is a different universe, and then we also supposedly have a pre-canon universe where they kind of showed uh they showed a version of Borderlands before it was cel shaded and stuff, and people say that that's like a pre-Borderlands universe that we could see, and I think that would be honestly horrible to go from kind of like how if Into the Spider-Verse just teleported and they were no longer animated, or they were animated but the world around them wasn't. That would be weird. But yeah, it does look like she teleported Elvis. I mean, no, she definitely did, but people think that she ripped through time and the multiverse and ripped through it. I think she bumped Elpis into an invisible planet or a planet with a shield around it. That's what I'm thinking. I think she teleported Elpis to a planet that had both a shield and a barrier around it. A planet that was hiding from something. And to hide itself, it had a cloaking device around the planet that also protected it from stuff landing on it to discover it. But why a cloaking slash shield device would not account for a moon-sized meteor to hit it at some point in the future is beyond me, because that would be the first thing I would worry about, being, a giant rock floating in the fucking, in space, in the universe. So, like, that kind of just seems poorly planned and poorly written. But the big thing that I was going to discuss in this is talking about how people are speculating that it's some kind of multiverse and this, that, and the other, and then all this stuff, and it's like, we need to manage expectations because we expected the pre-sequel, a pre-story to Jack, to be really, really good, and the game just wasn't. And then you also have Borderlands 3, which we did not manage expectations for, and it was bad. It wasn't great. I guess it wasn't bad. It just wasn't great. It was like a very average video game that I picked up, beat, and then didn't pick back up again, which is not what Borderlands should be to me. So I think the biggest point with this whole thing about the speculation of whether it's an invisible planet or a multiverse, we need to manage our expectations as a community and not expect too much from this, because to me, for them to announce a Borderlands 4 right after that horrible movie flopped, because it was like 120 million to make, didn't even make 20 million back, and Kevin Hart cost the movie 22 million by itself. So the movie didn't even make Kevin Hart's salary back from its theatrical release. And what we need to remember is Gearbox, to them, we are their cash cow, the Borderlands community. Like, when in doubt, release Borderlands, it will sell pretty well. And I think that's a good reason why there is no Epic deal for them to be on the Epic Store exclusively compared to Steam, because a lot of people waited for it to be available on Steam. And I just think we need to manage expectations and expect this game to be the worst game it could possibly be. Just so whenever it comes out, we're not disappointed in it. Literally, the first 2 seconds of that clip of the teaser were better than the entire Borderlands movie, and I was excited. And I know I shouldn't be excited because Borderlands has let me down more times than it has, you know, I guess lived up to the hype. Borderlands 1 and 2 lived up to the hype. The pre-sequel, 3, and the movie did not. 2 for 5. And I just think manage expectations.